All right, good morning and welcome back to Gaming with ADHD. It is Thursday, August 17th, and we are here for Topics and Tangents to discuss Land and Sea with its creators, Brent Evans and Blaine Pardoe, who you see down below me. But we're also joined tonight by Max Liao from the Legion of Myth channel here on YouTube. A friend of mine now, I think we can say at this point. And
see how today goes.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You know, I never count my friendships more than a couple hours ahead of time. So, but anyways, welcome everybody. So happy to have you here. Thanks for joining me.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome.
Am I supposed to say that too? Thank you.
Unless you're imperious and just putting that out there.
I mean, well, never mind. I'm not going to get into it. Yes, yes, I am. I'm narcissistic.
You should say you're lucky to have me.
Yeah, I mean, again, celestial wisdom. Just remember that.
Anyhow, so it has been about 7 months, I think, since Brent and Blaine were last on the channel. I think it's something about that kind of a time frame. Because last time I know Blaine and I got to talk on the release day for Splashdown, and then I got Brent the week after. So it's been like 7 months later. What's happening in the world of Land and Sea, guys?
Mad props to you for getting both of us, by the way. That was pretty awesome. Hat trick, man. Way to go.
I know people, and I like to, occasionally use my connections. So
yes,
we'll go from there.
Well, what's been going on is real simple. We've been cranking out books.
Cranking them out.
Building a freaking universe takes a while. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's actually one of the interesting things is that you came right out of the gate with 3 books back to back, January, February, March. April, we got a collection of short stories, and then May we got a standalone story that's not related to the original trilogy.
Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
So, I mean, like, did you always have that plan, or was that kind of okay?
Absolutely.
Well,
Go ahead.
Well, Blaine's totally right. Yes, that was always the plan. We'd intended originally to deliver it a little bit different. And let's start off with, we got really lucky with Wargate, our partnership with Wargate. They delivered something we did not think was possible. When we launched the first book of the new franchise, it launched in EPUB, softcover, hardcover, and audiobook alongside each other on day one. I've never seen a franchise launch in 4 formats on book 1 ever. That was so far above and beyond what we had expected. They really kind of threw the gauntlet. And what was funny is that when they did it, they said, the unicorn is if you guys can produce 6 books in a year. And what we later found out is that they didn't think we would do it. They were joking. But Blaine heard 6 books in a year, like, we're in. Absolutely, no doubt. We've got 4 done. So what was entertaining is that we had always planned on launching with the first 3 books. And then what became the 4th book was intended to be, we'd intended on launching as like a Kickstarter campaign. And then every single day, new fiction, we would release new fiction for it every single day to fuel the fire. Well, that ultimately became 90% of what was book 4. So once Wargate stepped in and said, we're in, can you guys do book 6? Blaine's like, you guys have no idea how far down the rabbit hole we're going to take this. And Blaine put together a brilliant thing. And then he instantly went, there's a couple of pieces that are missing. Let me add those in. And he threw those all in. And honestly, I think their editors' eyes rolled up in their head because they're like, oh my gosh, this is an unbelievable volume of stuff. And that is when we met our favorite editor. Blaine, take it from here.
No, Lauren's great. Lauren's a fantastic editor. And there's definitely what we want to do is, if you think back to BattleTech, and that's where our roots are. you think about the original launch of the Grey Death Legion trilogy, which is probably the gateway drug for 90% of the people who got into BattleTech. That's how they got into BattleTech. And if you think about it, the whole universe wasn't the Grey Death Legion. The rest of the novels kind of went in a lot of different directions. And we came back occasionally to the Grey Death Legion, but other factions and stuff became just as important. So what we wanted to do is, with that first trilogy, establish a really good set of core characters that we will see throughout this. And I'll answer questions about that because it's really cool. But you're also going to, when you get Ratchet's Run, you get a completely standalone book with totally new characters, totally aside from a cameo from one of the original characters. And book 6, it's a mix of brand new characters and some of the old characters in depth, and so it's really kind of a fun romp. Book 7, which I'm on right now, goes back to some of the core characters, but a bunch of new characters mixed in. So it's the cast gets bigger each time, and you're going to see some of the characters you really want to see. They will come back in many different forms and guises.
Okay. So, Max, anything?
Well, it's funny that he talked about the Grey Death series, because right now the audiobook I'm playing in my car is Decision at Thunder Rift. Right
Nice.
now. So
Nice.
I was like, I hadn't read it in I don't know how many years. I'm like, let's go back and check some of these BattleTech ones out. So that was interesting. What I'm most looking forward to as far as the books go, like I've gone through the first 3 again. I just don't have the time to read, knowing that there's a 4 and a 5 book out there. I'm sure Brian, there we go. That's is going to be talking about them, and I'll be like, dude, I'm not there yet. But you gotta do this. You gotta check this out. I was like, no, I'm definitely looking forward to the characters themselves. Like, so one of the things I say about books like this, and people take it disparagingly, but I don't mean it that way, is when I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons books, when I'm talking about BattleTech books, when I'm talking about Star Wars books, I call them kind of childish. I mean, I don't have another term for it. I'm sure, because they're not young adult books, but they're also not Steven Erikson, George R. R. Martin, Brandon Sanderson, and so forth. They're made for a different audience. But as far as those types of books go, this is. I was sucked in quickly, and I thought I was like, I'll do it. I'll take a listen to them. It's a new thing. Blaine's cool, so I'll check it out. And I absolutely love these things. So hurry up and get that audiobook author or reader out there and get 4 and 5 done, because these books are actually really well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's kind of fun because for book 4.
Yep.
We actually have 2 narrators, because some of the stories are female perspectives.
Okay.
So the female parts are done. And our narrators our normal narrator, Neil's working on his parts. So, it's kind of fun because you're going to get some, because they're short stories, we get some female perspectives to it.
Yeah. It was really interesting because, I've always been a huge proponent of audiobooks, and in working with Wargate, they kind of gave us the keys to the castle. They're like, you guys can have anything you want. And we said, all right, well, bar none, for our core trilogy, we want 1 voice talent. But beyond that, we want a mix. We want it to feel authentic. We want it to spread the gamut. It wasn't like we were saying everything is on this one voice of the universe. That's not what we were going for. But for the core trilogy, that actually made sense. So once we got past that core trilogy, the ability to bring in additional voice talent has been amazing, because Wargate has been reaching, hey, do you like this person? Hey, do you like this person? We're like, you know what? That one's fantastic. This one's fantastic. Go ahead and add them to the mix. Because as we move on, the core trilogy was always step 1. Moving forward this is a snowball that's going to spin in so many ways. And Blaine has so fully embraced the universe that builds. Just characters, storylines, plot points, all these things build. We are not hanging everything on one character. This is not, we have to retell Luke Skywalker or Spider-Man 15 times in order to keep the franchise alive. That's not what we're doing at all. Our characters can die. They're facing real risk. You guys saw that over the first trilogy with Blaze. Like, this is one of those nuances of, we build great characters, but the core is to create great storytelling.
Okay, so
That's
real
the
quick,
hook.
and we're going to come back to that comment, but I do want to bring this up. which we should have done at the very beginning. So, as a newbie, what is this setting?
20 years from now, aliens have been landing in the oceans and they decide to attack everywhere at once. And, it's not Battleship, because Battleship's corny. The wet navies are suffering dramatically during this, and they attack, and it is violent. And the only hope really for mankind are what we call Asher rigs, which are mecha suits that are attached to infantry units, etc., marine units, to augment their firepower, etc. And those are proving the only things that are kind of able to kind of tangle with the aliens one-on-one. They are a biological opponent, so they do not use tools and weapons the way we do. They genetically engineer everything that they do, be it their weapon systems and their soldiers, etc. It's multiple species of aliens that are fighting in this conflict, and they each have different roles on the battlefield, etc. So it's a real complicated universe, but it's 20 years in the future. Things are still identifiable. We didn't dramatically alter things. They're pretty straightforward.
Yeah, we absolutely went for, if an alien invasion actually were to happen, how would mankind react?
Yeah.
Poorly.
And the truth is, no one would believe it. It would sound so ridiculous. No one would buy it until it was so obnoxiously in your face you couldn't possibly deny it. And then they would go kicking and screaming down the rabbit hole. And of course, the old trope in movies and stuff is like, oh, the aliens show up and mankind suddenly gets along and unifies. No, mankind is not going to suddenly get along and unify.
No. That's one of the big underlying themes that you'll see in Ratchet's run, and you'll see it in the next book that comes out as well. And Tides of Redemption is the biggest enemy is still mankind. Humanity does not get along and isn't going to just suddenly go, oh, we've got a common threat. It's like, no, how can I get the upper hand on this for my country? And that's where this becomes kind of interesting. And you see it in Ratchet's run in kind of a microcosm. And then you see when you get to the book 6, you will actually see the British and the Americans together. And it's not what you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you already kind of show that? I mean, to some degree, you've showed that with Drake. In his machinations behind Drake. By the way, I love the Drake character. I know I'm not supposed to. I know he's a bad guy, but I love the Drake character. And the way that turned out between Dana and Drake, well, the Dana thing did surprise me. It was perfect. I was like, this is the best book ever.
He's Lex Luthor. He is Lex Luthor, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and a little Donald Trump all rolled into one. Which isn't, by the way, a positive creation.
No, he's not a positive guy.
You know what's funny, Max, is you brought up the Lex Luthor thing, and that's a great paradigm to introduce into any intellectual property discussion. The truth is, Lex Luthor is arguably the hero of the Superman universe. If you really wrap your head around it, Lex Luthor is right.
Yeah.
And that breaks the brain of all the geeks until they really put a real world spin on it, and they're like, dang it, I wish you weren't correct. But yeah, Lex Luthor has a point. And honestly, when I was a kid growing up, I was not a Superman fan. I liked Lex Luthor because Lex Luthor is the guy that has all the powers. He has the sword that'll cut through everything and the shield that'll stop everything. He's not the underdog. Lex Luthor is the human standing up to him going, you're an alien, stop dictating our future for us. We need our own manifest destiny. We get to make our own choices. And that never played out in the comics, but that was like the unwritten narrative.
Well, and Brent likes him because of his hairstyle.
Yeah, I have hair in me. It's true. It's a thing.
I mean, in all fairness.
Yeah.
So when you were putting the characters together, so I said I wanted to loop back around to it. So you did something I think is kind of interesting in that in this first trilogy, you make characters that love them or hate them. And actually, real quick, I'm not going to put this out to the audience, but I'm going to put it out to you guys. How deep do we want to go into spoilers on the original trilogy?
You can ask us anything. We don't
ask
have to
us whatever you want. You can ask us about stuff that's coming out. I don't care.
Okay. Well, because I say that because like I did put in the description. I'm warning everyone. Yes, there will be spoilers. I mean, come on, it's been 7 months. Get out there and read the books already, folks. There is a link
all those
down in the
details. So
description.
if you're going to get them, it's from us, no doubt.
Right. So Dana Blaze hated the character. She is a horrible human being.
Yes.
Okay.
And yet you cried when she died.
Nope, not at all.
I didn't cry, but I did feel like you were trying to at least give her a little bit of a redemption arc.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
That was definitely part of it. Is I think my favorite part of that is where she's like, she's blind, she's laying there dying, and she's like, "How's my hair look?"
Right.
You know, it's that Dana Blaze is a complicated character in many respects, and I think that she deserved a little bit of redemption because she was a horrible human being, just horrible. And the thing is, she's horrible, but she actually represents a lot of people in the media.
I thought it was interesting how you had her die.
I mean,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
no, I agree with you. What was interesting is how he had her die.
Yeah.
There wasn't a huge amount of fanfare. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time. She looked the wrong direction. Boom.
Yeah.
Welcome to warfare.
I was telling Brian about this because another character died right near that spot, and that one really caught me by surprise. The Dana thing kind of actually, they both caught me by surprise because I wasn't expecting either of them to go out in, of course, completely different ways. But I was like, this book was starting to feel a little like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like the BattleTech novels, like the Dungeons & Dragons books. I'm starting to see that everybody's a hero. Nobody's dying. Everybody's coming through. And then all of a sudden, pop. You had what's his name? Daniel, Cece's dad,
David.
I was calling David and Dana die like bap. I was like, whoa, okay, well that happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was no way he was going to get out of there. And the things the things I have done to Falto. Are basically war crimes.
Yes.
Fortunately in book 6, I will address that. But it's absolutely fascinating because you think she's going to be the one to kill that boss or that alpha down there. She doesn't get that, and that has repercussions to her character in book 6. It's big time, very big time, and so it's very interesting to kind of carry that forward.
It's been really fun, the discussions behind the scene, because we wrap a lot of real world stuff in, while also recognizing some real world stuff that we shouldn't. One of the things as we were going through the process with the characters in book 3, Blaine and I had independently seen different things about real world veterans with PTSD. And one of the items that they kept saying over and over again, it wasn't the things that they did, it was the thing they couldn't do. The person they couldn't save, the thing they couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And so for Falto, it wasn't that she couldn't save David, it's that she couldn't kill the alpha. That's the thing that haunts her. And it makes no sense. This is not, like our subconsciouses and stuff, they're not rational. The fact that they're irrational faces us with the stuff in the mirror at the end of the day that ultimately makes us flawed.
Yeah, it was also the timing of when David died right before. Again, I don't know how we want to do spoilers here.
Well, I wanted to drag it out because that's the gut punch. It's
right.
Because that's what would happen in real life. It's you want them to be able to save everybody, and it doesn't work that way in the real world.
Yeah.
And that's part of the difference, I think, between us and Battletech. Battletech, I always called it beer and pretzel science fiction. And it's not a slam. I wrote the stuff, so I'm entitled to say that. But with Battletech, you're always pretty much assured the hero is going to walk out at the end in some way, shape, or form. I took the legs off this person.
Literally.
Literally, I took an arm and legs and an ear. And, it just, what I did to her was really bad. And that's why Tides of Redemption has kind of the title that it does, because it's going to be, it's a Falto story, but it's not just her redemption in there. There's a lot of characters that are going to need some redemption that you'll be introduced to, and some that you know already. So we're taking some of the minor characters and giving them promotions.
Yeah.
Okay. So then actually, now that we brought up David, so when speaking of David, I mean, I think it's more the story of Cece. That, yes, David's involvement with Falto and how that worked out in the POW scenes, but why did you take everything away from Cece? Because she lost her dad, she lost her mom, she lost her brother, or did she? Because technically, all we know is that they didn't find anything of mom and brother.
Well, I'm looking forward to Blaine's answer on this. I really am.
Well, because when this started, it was, I told Brent, I said, I'd like a young person's perspective. And I said, nothing's more innocent than a young girl. So that was part of it. And then Brent goes, I like Carl in The Walking Dead. And so I was like, okay, but I think Carl's a bit of a douchebag. So let's take away everything. So first thing she loses is her technology, and she loses her parents, and she loses all of these things, and we slowly strip them away from her. So she is the most pure of all characters because she has nothing. She has nothing. And she makes choices on her own, and she creates her own family. And I think that's a real important aspect of that character. I think that's, to me, the essence of what a human being is.
Yeah.
Okay. Max?
I've got thoughts on this one. I can't stand Cece.
Oh,
I like Cece up until the transition, because I believe that most kids are Carl. No. So here's what it is. It's what I call the Wesley Crusher syndrome. I don't like it in anything. I haven't liked it since I was a teenager in the 80s. I don't like Arya Stark. I can't stand that character. What you said you like about the character, I can't stand. Kids do irrational things. They don't all of a sudden become adults overnight. And that drives me crazy. But with that said, it is something that's known in the writing world. It is a typical, I hate to use the word trope in this because it's kind of trivializes it, but it is something that's known. So, I mean, I accept it for what it is, but yeah, Cece is not a favorite character of mine. I did like her before when she was acting like a kid, but that all of a sudden flipped to like, I'm an adult now, I'm a tough girl. Yeah, no, sorry, girl. I don't believe that one. It was like, really, there's that, and there's one little minor incident that happened at one point are the only two blemishes, Persian flaws, we'll call them, for me in the book. So amazing books, but yeah, Cece is, when I see it's a Cece chapter, I'm just like, can we please be more Antonio? Please be more Antonio. Please be more Antonio.
Hey, her arc isn't done yet. So
Fair enough.
Not even close.
Not even
You know
close.
what's interesting is I was recently doing research and stuff in a variety of things, and they were talking about how the nuance of in actual warfare, we historically gloss over the importance of children. But children are in warfare just as much as the adults are, but they don't have the paradigm as an adult. So they walk into warfare with the paradigm as a child. And there's something about that perspective that casts all the other things going on in a different light. And Honestly, in my opinion, CC is my personal favorite, just because it's such a different character. We're not doing the Wesley Crusher. She's not suddenly become omnipotent. She's not a god. She is absolutely a human. She is blatantly flawed. At the end of book 3, when she actually meets Falto, and they have the conversation of like, wait a minute, you knew my father? And all of a sudden, this person who's built this shell around themselves breaks and starts crying, like, holy shit, my dad survived Guam. Like, all of that is incredibly humanizingly honest. And honestly, there's one thing in terms of storytelling. Blaine, above all else, is a master storyteller. And when it comes to crafting characters, he crafts characters to tell a point of the narrative that he feels needs to balance out the whole. So this wasn't about making CC a hero. We're not trying to craft her as the next. She's not going to be the next Captain America. That's not where she's going. That's not how he's addressing characters. But the truth is, in warfare, there are always children, and adults have no idea how to properly deal with them. And there's been many cases in the last 40 years about adult, like seasoned soldiers facing child warriors and not having a clue how to deal with it.
Africa's been doing it for a long time.
Right. Yep.
It's just it was for me, it's the mentality, but great point with the end of the book, because that's actually when I came back and said, okay, I can't wait to see how this actually affects her going forward, knowing that it's depending on how far, if Felto tells her more as time goes on. But no, I do agree with that ending. I do. It made me actually look at her as a human again, instead of like, all right, CC, how tough are you going to be now? Okay, that's great.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to disagree with Max a little bit on this, because I don't think she was really portrayed as a Wesley Crusher type character. Yes, she was, like, to me, she was more like
she was tougher. I get that. I just use that as the analogy, the Wesley Crusher of the child prodigy.
Sure, but I mean, but to me, it was more like let's be honest. If we're trying to think logically, where would you put a 16-year-old girl in a militia type organization? And to me, it's some sort of a light scout. And to me, that's what she was. She's not carrying the big guns. She's not taking out the big beast. She's setting up the fire zones. She's setting up, the lookouts. And I think that's what you did with her. And I thought that was appropriate. I don't think it made her more powerful than she was.
There's more in the nuance in terms of like, well, don't say these things. Like, was it Antonio about, don't assume that Antonio and her are having some sort of relationship. Otherwise, she'll kill you. Okay, it was that stuff over and over again. And again, I'm making it sound worse than it is. It's not. It was actually, it was. When you have every character you like and you just have to find flaws in one, there you go.
That's okay. Remember, you were rooting for Jay Drake, so
no. I liked him as a character.
I mean, your credibility levels kind of wavering.
And my name's Max Liao. No, I mean, one of the aspects of the characters, and I wish I was going to go listen to the book today so I could get the dude's name. The dude who lost his wife and daughter. Where when you actually find out that they died, I was like, this Kane. Again, I don't want everybody to die. Kane, yeah, there we go. I don't want everybody to die, but it was one of those things where I was like, this is starting to be more realistic. Like right. I'm again, like you said, the Beer and Pretzels BattleTech books where, oh, great, I'm glad to see that you were alive. You're sitting there going like, oh, his wife and daughter, they're safe. Probably went to somewhere, and all of a sudden, like, nope. I was like, ooh, this became real. Like, I absolutely like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think there was also a lot of foreshadowing on that, especially with how much, Kane was constantly trying, hey, come join me, come out, get out of Los Angeles, etc. And then, they didn't make it.
Well, honestly, how many of us, like, we all know the nuance of our family members, our friends. How often have we or known people who were the voice of reason that nobody would listen to? That happens. It absolutely happens. And that's exactly what he was doing. It's like, they won't listen to people. I swear, you need to leave. Like, he's like, this is the one thing I'm actually good at. Why won't you listen to me on this one? And they wouldn't.
No.
And That totally happens in the real
Mhm.
world.
Yeah, this has got a grittier level than BattleTech.
Oh, yeah.
We were ever allowed to get into in BattleTech, and
Yeah.
and I don't think BattleTech would actually be able to do a lot of the stuff we do, especially the swearing.
There's a lot of swearing.
There is, and
Yeah, but being from the military, I'll tell you, that's just Tuesday.
I know
Well, it wasn't
I know.
too much, but at 2x speed, you notice when those F-bombs just start flying. Okay.
Oh yeah. Well, and the part I like about Keen is too, there was always this thing where he just kind of pretended the divorce didn't happen.
Yep.
And
And I think we
actually
all
had a
know
friend
people
that
like
was
that.
like that. He
Yep.
was like, "Nah, we're going to get back together. I know we are." And it's like,
Yeah.
she's filed paperwork against you. Like, it's not happening. But you have people that go through that, and so I just took real life stuff and kind of wove it in there.
Mm-hmm. And that,
So
to
for what
me,
it's worth-
that's what made it fantastic, because you absolutely could see. And it's one of the things I stress about. Like, I like the reality of it. At least it felt real.
Well, thank you.
There's a fun little side story to this, particularly with CC. I'll throw this out to you because you're a diehard BattleTech fan and you'll appreciate it. So in 2009, my player group expanded and we added a bunch of new players for BattleTech. Two of them were kids, and I didn't quite realize the nuance of the kids. I knew they were younger and that they were young, like I figured they were 17, 18. I didn't realize just how young they were. So my player group had one of the lead engineers for the Raptor fighter in it, one of the lead computer quality control programmers for Adobe. They had me, and I had already done TRO 3050. And we had several other members that were just incredibly, ridiculously high qualified. All of us were diehard BattleTech gamers. And we got together at this gaming shop, and we somehow attracted two kids to the group that were 15. One of which had convinced his divorced mom to drive him 3.5 hours each way so that he could play with us.
That's awesome.
Every other Sunday for like a year and a half. He started at 15, and none of us realized how young he was. But he was playing with us every other weekend. This guy's name was Rich Grow. He was this great guy. One of the other guys in our player group was a lieutenant commander in the Navy. We're all playing, having a great time. During this time, I showed up at Gen Con, and on a fluke, I won nationals.
Oh.
The Clicks tournament. Pairs with a partner named Ward, who was phenomenal. We showed up sight unseen. A buddy had said, "Oh, I need help. Would you pair up with my partner because the singles and the doubles tournament at the same time? This is the guy, Ward. I got to go." Boom. And we walk in sight unseen with like, what have you got? What have I got? We're faction pure. Okay, screw it. Let's just go. And we played, and we won. And it was like this phenomenal experience where I realized, oh, gee, I didn't realize my home player group was actually like good. I didn't realize just how skilled we were in the game. So I came back and I told each other oh man, it turns out we actually have some skills. People are amazed at how good I was, and I didn't think I was anything special. Well, it turns out over the course of several years of playing with this group, this kid, Rich Grow, he went on to join the military. He became a seasoned officer. He was recruited and everything. He had this whole career that lifted off. So when I was talking with Blaine about the characters that started off, I told him the story of Rich Grow. This kid that showed up out of nowhere that you would never expect, that convinced his mom to drive him 3.5 hours each way to play with us because he loved the game. And ultimately, that's kind of the direction we took with CC, is that this is the one that came out of nowhere. This is the one that did not come with any preconceived skills. This is your level 0, Ninja Panda, with the skills that are left to prop open the door when it gets hot, that kind of thing. That was the start for CC. And Blaine wove us a tale around that of how do we make this character cool? How do we make them relevant for both the storytelling and in a way that can get a faction of our fan base into the universe that normally wouldn't get it through any other character? So there you go. There's your weird backstory on CC.
I liked it when she shows up in book 5 at the end. In Ratchet's Run. That's what I just, when that happens, people are like,
yeah,
that's them.
Oh, did Brian and Max just miss that teaser? Oh my gosh.
I'm sitting in my head, spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
It's so good.
sorry.
Hey, I did say that this conversation would have spoilers in it, but that's that. Like, I am excited to finally get through book 5, because I remember going through book 3, and Blaine will remember this, because I messaged him directly saying, "Hey, wait a second, Ratchet's Run," because it's about the bank heist, and going through book 3, there's kind of a throwaway line. Oh yeah, these guys totally like busted through the back lines and raided a bank. I'm like, is this the same thing? So
We
Look,
admit nothing.
there are so many, especially when we get to the graphic novel stuff, which, Brent's been working on, as have I, and this great partner we're working with on this, Scott McCullough. It's absolutely fascinating, because we set a lot of stuff up in the first 3 novels specifically so that we could do the graphic novel, the location, the what was happening, etc., the references to it and stuff. And Scott's doing a great job of kind of taking that story and blowing it out, and it's really cool. I mean, it's just it's really cool, So it's fun to see that type of stuff happen. And don't think that there aren't little nuggets planted everywhere. I was, just before this show, I was working on book 7, which is the start of season 2. And it's like I literally just wrote one of those where it's like, I know what the story is here. Because Brent and I've already talked about, we toyed with doing this, but book 5 was something we'd always planned on doing, and it was either going to be as an RPG supplement for it or whatever. But I was like, I love the movie Kelly's Heroes. I'm going to do Kelly's Heroes modern day with aliens. I'm just going to do that, and it totally is fun, because it
is fun.
It's just a romp through the place.
Yeah.
I always wanted to blow up Beverly Hills. It worked out great.
You know what's so cool too is the way he did it. Like when Blaine, I love the fact that when I pitched the Land and Sea from the very beginning to Blaine, he's like, "Oh, we should totally do that, because I'll be doing that for the rest of my life." He's like, "I can just see all the diabolical possibilities with it, where I can go with this," and he's never stopped. And I've never once yanked his chain. I'm like, "Dude, you go." He's like, "You gonna hold me back?" I'm like, "I will never hold you back, dude. You run, go, go, go." And it's so fun when he comes up with the story nuances of this. If you really think about the tales that Blaine tells, he brings them to life in a way that is so authentic. They're like, I could totally see that happening. Like it's not candy coated. It's not overly pretty. It's real. It's great storytelling with great characters done right.
No, I agree. I agree to that.
Yeah. No, it is, and it's not taking. It's going a little bit beyond what I would say is like the PG-13 universe of BattleTech, but it's still keeping it relatable. It's not,
not gratuitous.
Yeah, someone earlier had said that Blaine is going to be or threw out a lot more gore, which I mean I can see some of that with like the alien experimentation, but even then it's not horribly graphic. Like if I had
just injected me with purple goo, my arm swelled up, and now they took it off.
Well, I think some of that is the little girl who loses her wrist in the start of Splash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Scene 1 right
People
after that.
People have had a visceral reaction to that, and I'm like, if you've ever read the book Jurassic Park, the opening of that, where the tiny little raptors are on the shore and they devour the little girl, that's. I was going for that level of effect, like
that's, I had forgotten about that scene.
Same here.
But, let me phrase that. I'd forgotten about the Jurassic Park scene, but no, the little girl on the beach in book 1, like that one hit me. And then when we were driving up to Idaho, it's like, okay, I want to like, it's been a while since I've gone through book 1 and book 2. All right, I've got the audiobooks. Yes, I bought the book. I bought the audiobook. I just haven't gotten the physical copies yet, guys. Chill out.
It's hard to sign an audiobook. I'm just putting that out there, Brian.
I know, fair. But no, like listening to that story of the little girl on the beach, like, and now like having it told to you, just like, oh, that hits harder. So
the hard part was because we're starting season 2, and season 2 will be books 7, 8, and 9. It's a trilogy. And I had to sit down and go, you know what? I need one of those violent, totally over the top reactionary things right off the bat again. That I'm going to do that again for that factor. And it's this time I go into gore. It's a major thing, but it actually fits into part of the plot of the book, and it's an important thing. But it's, believe me, I think when people read it, they're going to go, "Oh my God!" and what the hell happened here?
I'm not a fan of anime, but one of them that I do address in a situation like that is Goblin Slayer, where right off the bat, we need to let you know that goblins are evil. And believe me, we only have to do this one time because you will remember this for the entirety of the series. And having that kind of shock hit you right away absolutely does say, okay, things are about to get real. This is where's this going to go? And somebody like me, look, full disclosure here, I'm a little 5-year-old girl. I will scream like one when I see a bug. Yes, that's right. I'm not a fan of insects. So when you're describing little crab monsters running around, because all crabs are just water bugs trying to eat people, I'm like, I want to shoot them all already. I'm Ripley from Alien. Wipe them out, all of them. Let's do this.
I think I ruined the beach for a lot of people this summer.
Yeah, it's awesome because you think about it. I remember Blaine talking about that original scene because he was worried about going, like, is this too far? But ultimately, if you think about the heart of the story, if you guys remember Jaws, the reaction to Jaws, that opening scene where the girl goes skinny dipping and then she gets pulled under and then she comes back up and she has that second and a half where you're like, oh, maybe she'll be okay. Meanwhile, you're hearing the little dun 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 dun, and then you see her go down and you just realize, oh my gosh. And the moment you go to the beach for the next 5 years, you're thinking about that scene. You have that in your head. That's the kind of visceral primal element that ultimately Blaine was challenged with coming up. How do you create that primal a reaction? And he nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. And he's totally right. The truth is, it's way more PG version than the opening for Jurassic Park, which has little dinosaurs eat a girl's face off. You kind of think about that. Like, how do you get that reaction without going all the way down the gory, nasty rabbit hole?
Well, and I think.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, I was going to say, I think one of the things that he did that made it work so well is, let's be honest, he starts out the whole scene as, oh, look at this. It's so cute. Daddy, come look at this. And you're just like,
yes.
Oh, what's going to happen? Blah. Oh, wait, what?
Yeah. And then ultimately, we don't see the girl die. We see the dad die. The dad gets cut to pieces. But it's the little girl losing her hand is the part that sticks with us. That's the primal hook.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also the, dad, like the light flickering out of dad's eyes as he's laying in the surf.
Yeah. It was kind of funny too. We were talking about David before too. I kind of crack up because David wasn't even a central character. He's not a point of view character. You never actually get David's point of view.
No.
It's always Cece's point of view or it's Falto's point of view, and David happens to be there. You never actually get to hear what he's thinking and feeling and things along those lines. It's always everybody else.
That's brought out in just how you describe him, though. Because I always felt, obviously he was a family man. Obviously, what he was doing for the betterment of his family. When he got caught, he was trying to be, a stable force to help Falto. Like I don't think he needed to be a point of view character, but he was still strong in that support role.
Well, and a lot of
he could have stayed back at the thing where for falls go back to base, stay where you're safe. He's like, no, there's more people I need to go help. Like that's just who he was.
Well, and a lot of that came because Brent's while we were sketching out the universe, Brent's wife does consulting, and she goes to the Pacific to do it, and so that's where we got David's character. Is the guy who goes to Guam. Because I'm not telling where Jennifer goes, but she goes to some interesting places out in the Pacific. And so I was like, okay, you picture how a consultant does that and how they have to stay connected to their family and stuff, and they're doing their job. So David was a great guy. He was an average Joe guy who got caught in incredibly horrible circumstances.
Yeah, no, and he was a good character, and I think Terry does hit it right on the head that you get a good sense of who he is, even though he's not in the spotlight. Yeah. But yeah. I don't think he needed to be.
Well, it's kind of like the character of Fizz. I think Fizz is he's Dana's cameraman. He is a great character. I like him a lot. He is fun because he has his own personality. I mean, when she takes him to get his arm set at the animal hospital,
and he's whining the whole way.
He's whining, and she's like, "Don't drop any of the gear." Her whole focus is,
because she's such a sweetheart.
Yeah, but he's such a great guy. He's just fun to. He's interesting, and you will get to see him again too.
Good. I actually liked him as a character. Unlike, well, I mean, I liked all the characters, but unlike Dana, who you're supposed to hate, and again, bye. Fizz is one that I do hope to see more of him. That's awesome.
Oh yeah.
What's fun is that there's some characters that are best shown through their own eyes, and there are some characters that are best shown through other characters' eyes. And Fizz is one of those that has done a phenomenal job as a supporting character through other characters' eyes. And honestly, I love the dislikable characters. It's been amazing to see how huge the fan reaction for love for Kane as a character. He's so broken.
Flawed?
He's so flawed. He has so many character issues, and yet, ultimately, he's the grumpy uncle we love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't ruin that because it's too good of a scene, and Brent hasn't read it yet. But Kane is not going away. Kane has a very specific function in the next trilogy, and you'll get to. There's some scenes coming up that are just beyond fun with Adam Kane and some of the other characters. Yeah. And that's what's great when we have a suite of characters like this. I can combine characters that you normally wouldn't see together. And you're going to get to see how they interact. It's kind of like, Brienne of Tarth, going with Podrick Payne. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't picture that being entertaining, but it oddly was, Yeah.
So
it ended up making us like both of them better.
Yeah.
Well, so then one question I would ask is, does any character, and you don't have to say who, but does any character have plot armor? Or is everyone potentially on the chopping block?
Everyone is always on the chopping block.
Everyone in our universe could be dead and may be dead at some point. In a page. Yeah, it totally could happen.
We have one qualifier. They have to die cool. It has to make the story better.
Yeah, I'm not just going to kill some of the main characters for the purpose of I'm just going to shock the reader now. Haha. I'm not going to do that. We can do that with the secondary characters really easy, but doing it with the main character, it's really got to be for a purpose, and it's got to make the story much more interesting. It's got to create a set of circumstances, etc., that make things interesting.
I think that's been done successfully so far. Again, every time somebody died, I either didn't see it coming, or when it happened, it's like, oh, that was the result. I mean, it's a very, very human experience. I think that's the term I want to use for it. It's a very human experience for each one of them.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
It's interesting, Max, because you clearly come from a diehard BattleTech fan base perspective. And there's been, we've talked a bit about how different our ability to do storytelling is in Land and Sea than it was in BattleTech. And I want to make sure, honestly, obviously, I'm still a huge part of BattleTech. None of that is a disparaging comment toward BattleTech. BattleTech, from the very beginning, when they were starting their storyline or their storytelling, had a set of parameters that were unique to their niche within the market and what they were trying to promote and push. And where it has become is a huge part to the love of both the fan base and the creators to create a long-standing multi-generational story arc universe that fans can get involved in and enjoy. But with that said, BattleTech currently has the nuance of it is totally a global franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Every country has their different cultural nuances for what they're okay to see. Like in America, we're not allowed to acknowledge that people have nipples, but we can put blood and gore all over everything. In the UK, you can have nipples on everything, but you can't put blood and gore on anything.
Germany was the same way. I lived there for 10 years, and Germany was the same way.
Yeah. So there's lots of cultural nuances, and that's not to Central America, South America, Asia, Australia. Like there are so many nuance of cultures and things that ultimately the creators that are helming the franchise for BattleTech are making sure that they're guiding through a set of benchmarks and stuff that they need to navigate. That's all part of handling a licensed, ongoing, multi-generational property. With that said, Blaine has no kid gloves. When he and I were talking about this originally, he's like, "Are you gonna put any strings on me?" No strings, dude. Run. Do this the way you think it should be done. We're allowed to do things that BattleTech isn't. We can handle storytelling the way that BattleTech can't. So that's not to say anything negative about BattleTech, but it means that they're definitely, all of our fans that followed us from BattleTech will definitely feel a different nuance to the universe that we're laying down with Land and Sea from, like I said, scene 1 with the little kid on the beach in Oregon. And all the way through. That's not just the beginning that's going to be a weird thing. No, that's the ongoing thing. We are creating a different kind of a property. The nuance between this franchise is different. And in a good way. They should be unique. They should be separate. People who love BattleTech should continue to be able to jump right into BattleTech and love it for all the things that is greatly BattleTech. In the same way that Battlestar Galactica is amazing and Star Wars is amazing and all these other franchises are amazing. But with our franchise, we got to call our own shots and helm our things based on the market that we are starting with here. We didn't have to inherit the market the way it was in 1985.
Sure.
So nuances.
Would you say that BattleTech in that regard then is a little bit more like pro wrestling, for lack of a better term, glitzy, a little more showmanship, where this is more where this is more MMA, where it's a little grittier, might not have the big fan base, but definitely will have a die-hard fan base, so to speak?
That's an interesting question because there are certain elements within the BattleTech universe. Solaris, absolutely. A lot of the political intrigue where they're staging things to make it look like one thing when they're actually doing something else, certainly. That can totally play out. But ultimately is that their factions and storylines, there are strings attached that are anchored to, it is a franchise. They are the managers of BattleTech are the stewards of the franchise, and they need to make sure that ultimately every part of it either pays off or builds the overall whole in a way that matches the BattleTech universe. We don't have those constraints. Did that come across right, or did I misstate that?
It felt right to me.
Blaine, how to do, buddy?
Well, we're going. I think the other thing is too. We are going to be able to move things along. BattleTech has a lot of what I call overburden. So even when Hour of the Wolf came out, etc., it became okay. Well, now let's figure out what we're going to do once we've done this, and it drags out for 2 or 3 or 5 years before you start really seeing anything dramatic. And there's always this, gee, we can't destroy any factions because if we wipe a faction out, it becomes a bad thing.
Well, you guys tried in the Forced Succession War.
Yeah. Yeah, we did, Max.
Yeah, but you had that coming. I'm just saying.
You started it.
I did.
Collect the plates, man.
He invited you to the wedding. What do you want?
That's a paragraph I used to have memorized for years. I'm dead serious. I can't do it now, but I had that paragraph memorized for years.
But
it's worth under my tutelage as the line developer, House Liao became the strongest faction of the entire BattleTech universe.
Oh, I see a little nuance in the current 3145 map that makes me joke.
You have some of the best tech and units, man.
But we're going to be advancing the war into the next year. So when we start season 2, it is set in, the next year of the war, calendar-wise. So things move along, and this isn't going to be a conflict that gets resolved quickly by any stretch, because there's a lot of insurmountable problems. Even communicating with the aliens is not something that gets fixed. There's no virus you get to plan on the mothership that's going to take this down. Just pulling one off the top of my head,
Yeah, there's no vent holes that go all the way to the core reactor that'll just suddenly
Okay, come on. Now you're going too far. There has to be one everywhere.
And Palpatine did not just come back. Okay. So, there's a lot there that is going to take a while to resolve, because that's how things would happen. And I think you're going to find, as we enter into season 2, that next trilogy is going to be a lot of gut punching stuff. There's a lot of political stuff in there, as well as the military stuff. And there's a lot of very interesting things that are going to unfold that that I think fans are going to go, well, why aren't we doing this? Okay, well, we're going to do that, and you're going to really hate what happens when we do that.
Yeah. It's so funny when people ask, why aren't you giving them what they want? Like, really think about the storyline. If you gave them what they wanted, would that be better? Kind of like it for the BattleTech fans. Okay, one clan finally wins Terra. Is it suddenly peace tech? Is suddenly everybody get along? No, not at all. One thing happens in land and sea, and it doesn't necessarily make things better. It just happens usually, and it creates more questions than answers.
Yeah. We're really setting the ground for a great role-playing game that we're working on too, because the black market's going to be a big deal, and there's a lot of different roles, especially as you go through Flotsam of War. You're going to see that there's a lot of different roles. The medic is an important person. The tech is a real important person. Whereas in BattleTech, it tends to be everybody's got to be a mech warrior type thing in order for it to be cool. And it's like, no.
We talk about that a lot. People will ask me, like, hey, what's the best version of the mech warrior game? I'm like, well, none of them really, because you're either playing BattleTech, because that's what it always devolves into. It devolves into playing BattleTech. I'm making the hotshot pilot if it's second edition, or first edition was really just the board game glorified. I tell people, if you want a science fiction game in the BattleTech universe, use Traveler or something like that. You're going to have a better role-playing experience to do that. If you want to play BattleTech, because it's going to devolve into that anyway. You're not. How do you have one guy playing an Aztec, another guy playing a mech warrior, another guy playing an information gatherer? Because you're going to be running 3 different sessions. Is usually just the way something that would turn out.
Yeah.
Nice call out to Traveler, by the way.
Well, but that was one of the things when we started this too, is we had to make this so that it was gameable. And the role-playing aspects become very good. And Ratchet's Run is a good example of what would be a good RPG kit. Let's go rob a bank and do it behind enemy lines. That's a role-playing thing. And we didn't want the Oshers to be this overpowering, like we're fielding regiments of the Osher suits. They are scarce. The pilots are rare. And yes, there are units out there, and you'll see this in book six, that are all Osher, but they are like the equivalent of a Delta Force unit, and this one's called Omega Force. And whereas Delta Force tends to be this precise, tactical, surgical instrument, these are
going to be blunt instruments.
Yeah, the Omega Force has a Warhammer on their patch. Because they are the blunt object. They're the group you send in not to do something surgical, but to destroy everything there. And
what's great is that their commanding officer completely understands their role in the battlefield. And if they're miscast or misused, they're like, that's not what we're good at. This is our one thing.
Yeah, this is the one thing we do is we destroy everything. And it's a neat thing. And you're going to get to see some of the British units as well, which are really going to be fun. So there's a lot in this book. That book has got a lot in it.
Well, I would tell you 20 minutes ago, I wouldn't have been too interested about a land and sea role-playing game because it's a little too modern. I like way off in the end sci-fi, or I like fantasy. But I think you may have just convinced me that that this can be added to my shelf pretty soon, or whenever it's done, as something that I might be interested in actually running and playing.
Yeah, because the rigs aren't going to dominate it. You could run it with just a whole bunch of infantry guys, or a militia unit. If you want to build a militia unit, you can do that. And if you look through Flotsam of War, there's some great stories about individual militia units, the Savannah Knights, etc., going out and doing their stuff. And I think you're going to capture a lot of that element that we used to like about Battletech, where we had a lot of these little independent mercenary companies that had their kind of flair to them. Well, the militia units allow you to do that.
Okay, so I actually want to loop back a little bit, and we're going to come back to the game. No, Max, that's part of the reason that I brought you in. We're gaming channel.
to sidetrack everything, I'm good at that.
No, we're gaming.
Gamers
channel.
want to go down tangents. I am shocked.
Wow.
Right. But I did want to talk a little bit more about plans for fiction. So one question that I had. So for me, the easy, and I know we keep bringing up Battletech a lot. Gee, surprise with the four of us. So when I first got into it, it was always moving the story forward. The next time a book came out, it was either maybe it was a month or two before the previous book, but it was always in that same kind of timeline, and it was slowly advancing forward. And then about the time that FASA shut down and In Media Res started up, then they just started putting fiction out whenever, so it's like, oh, we're gonna do the Exodus story or the Pentagon Crusade or all of these things that had been touched on in like a historical format, but now we're gonna go back and novelize all of that. And then I got lost and I couldn't figure out what was the actual story, and then I stopped caring. Okay. So, no offense, Blaine. Okay.
No,
totally fair.
But what are you planning to do with Land and Sea in that regard? Are you always planning for moving forward, or are you going to do like some background stories like in the Russo-Bratteville War, or other things?
Blaine, you want to go first and I'll go second?
Yeah, I never want to say never because it doesn't make sense. I can tell you the first 6 books follow a progression timeline-wise. And I will tell you the next 3 books are going to progress forward in timeline-wise. I prefer that approach. That's not to say if another author comes in, and we're actively looking at all times for good talent to fit into that. If an author comes in and says, look, I'd like to do something from the early days, I would not turn that down per se, but I would try to guide them to doing something that would move the story further along. But you'll see even the best part about the cycle chapters, those dividers that divide each of the character groups up, is it allows us to do some time hopping backwards. You can show stuff that's happened previously and use that as kind of an impetus to be able to set things up. So yeah, I personally, I would prefer to keep things linear because I think it's great.
So jumping in on that
every week. It's not every week.
It's not every week. It just feels
it's
that
not a
way.
month.
Yeah, no joke. Blaine is just the most ridiculously amazing workhorse when it comes to it, and he's not just crapping stuff out. He's turning out really quality stories that are well thought out. I'm loving every moment of it. What's interesting about your question is that anyone who looks at the storyline, that even just over the first trilogy, there are so many seeds of stories that are dropped. The battle for New Orleans, the battle for Tampa, the battle for Boston, the battle for New York. Like we mentioned, the battles are happening in Seattle, battles are happening in Oregon. Like there's all these things we haven't even looked at one moment of the battles for San Francisco. All those things happen. We drop little notes that they happen, but none of those have been shown on character or on camera.
Or
what's
also,
interesting,
because real quick, I do want to point this one out. The private security teams that secured Orlando.
Right? Oh yeah. Or how about any of Jay Drake's teams that have been scooping up things all over the place and bringing them back, for biological review? Yeah. So the best example of this is Hawaii. We very intentionally said Hawaii went dark, and we blocked off the entirety of the storyline for what happens in the Battle for Hawaii for the graphic novel, knowing full well we never intend on telling the story for the Battle of Hawaii in a novel. That's only for the graphic novel. That'll be the only way that it'll ever be told. So when we're looking at all these other storylines, it's not that they necessarily will or won't be told in fiction, but a lot of those are great fodder for when we build the game. These are your playable scenarios. Here are the way we build the game, people that are playing the game, and really feel like they're adding content to the overall knowledge of the universe. We're using all of these little seeds for the writers and the game developers to build what comes next. Hawaii went dark, and it seems a bit grim. Oh, yeah. It went dark, very dark, and it was very grim. Yes.
It was very grim, but yeah. And the other thing that's important, Brent had kind of one standing rule in the design, which is this game has to be playable by anybody who wants to play in their hometown. If you want to pull up a map of your hometown, it's only 20 years in the future, so things aren't going to be radically different. You can pull up a map of whatever major city you're living in, and that can be your gaming environment. And thanks to Google Earth and Street Views, etc., you can do a pretty good job of showing what things look like. And we're going to take advantage of that and make it so it's interesting. And some of the things that have been referenced in the first trilogy, like what's been happening in Manhattan, etc., will be a major component of what's happening in the next trilogy. So you're going to get to see some of that too. So it's fascinating stuff.
Okay.
There's a lot of threads here, and if I ever die, and they'll never be able to piece it together.
They'll never be able to.
Because a lot of it's in my head, and how I.
We'll have his brain in a jar, hermetically sealed. That's what's.
It's like Futurama.
Yeah. Put him in a Nixon robot. No.
I'm not a crook.
So that's actually another question. The graphic novel, like you told me about that 7 months ago. How close is it?
I saw the script a couple of weeks ago on the author's phone. Yeah, we have the story has been agreed to
and approved.
Yeah, let me see if I can present. I'm going to give Scott.
There's 2 new Ashers that'll show up in that graphic novel, and I'm finalizing the designs with the graphic novel artist right now. Final edits have been sent back, and I'm waiting for the edited version. So it's happening. It's going well. It's
not letting me share my screen. Oh,
what's wrong with it?
I don't know. The share button's not working. Oh well. Screen sharing was canceled. I don't think so.
Microsoft taking over everything, huh? Or Apple. I don't know which one you got there, but they're both trying to take over the world.
So it's a funny story. We all have, like, those of us that work in gaming, it's usually a brutal, grueling marathon, trying to get gaming products across the finish line. That's totally normal. One of the common things we say is, it's all right, we're not saving babies. It turns out the person in charge of the graphic novel that's handling the writing, he actually works for an organization where he was helping people after the major earthquakes in, was it Afghanistan?
Turkey.
Well,
I don't know if he was helping with the earthquake, but he was in Turkey.
Yeah, he was trying to help with the support and logistics and stuff. And so I'm like, you know what? He actually is technically saving babies, so we can't beat him up over the deadline. So let's give him a little extra leeway and stuff. But yeah, the work that he's doing, he really is a real life superhero. So I'm like, we'll cut him a little bit of slack. But it's been
comics are more important.
Yeah.
Priorities.
Did this share?
Yep. I can add it to the stream. What do we got here, folks?
That's in case you thought
this looks like spoiler territory.
Yeah, we're in spoiler territory.
Yeah.
And this tells you how freaking awesome the graphic novel's going to be.
Yeah. So welcome to the third Asher for the Land and Sea universe, the Honey Badger, which was mentioned but never seen in the fiction. So
it looks a little small.
It's supposed to look a little small, actually. It's a smaller Asher.
I like that.
Hey, size doesn't matter.
No, I was just saying it looked because personally, I believe it's a rhino.
Oh yeah,
which is not small. So
no.
Real quick,
no, it's not.
I'm gonna bring this up just so we can answer it real quick. Halcyon, the first 3 books are on Audible right now. You can find them in the affiliate link down in the description. Actually, no, you're on Max's stream. He has the old link. So use the link and then just look for Splashdown and you'll find it. And book 4 is coming hopefully by the end of the year.
It's in the works now. Yeah.
Yeah. We have to, it always depends on the scheduling for the narrators. And
right. Okay.
Honey Badgers don't give an F.
Yeah.
I'm right. And Brent and I today were going back and forth on some stuff on the other one that we've got coming out, which is the Sea Wolf. Which is the Navy SEALs shallow water rig. Yeah. Which is got a cool look to it. The guys we're working with for the graphic novel, it's more important not to rush them, but to get it done right. And they're doing some really good storytelling with this. So Scott McCullough's launched his Door Knockers series is doing.
I think it's Door Kickers.
Door Kickers. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like 11 o'clock at night here. So I get a little tired. But the
we gave you the option to go earlier, Blaine. You said 10 was
I know, but I slowly wear down here. But it's a really good series, and he was just a perfect fit graphically for what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I like the look of that. I like that you've been giving out some extra graphics. I have one more question related to the art, but I want to ask something else real quick first. Book 6, will we see that before the end of the year?
Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely.
Book 6 is done. I'm waiting for somebody to finish reading it and give me their notes.
I'm ripping it now.
So I can send it to the editor and Brent's got to set up. This one's got, I think, a little more, for lack of better definition, I think it's going to have a little more complicated cover. Just because, the scene that we want to use it's a little more complex. This is going to be, book 6 is phenomenal, but it'll definitely be out before the end of the year. Yeah. The train will keep marching. No, not book 11.
Book 11. For what it's worth, I do anticipate book 11 being done by the end of 2024.
I guarantee that. I guarantee that.
We can do.
That's very doable. But yeah, it's going to be. I think you guys, when you read it, you're going to go, okay, this is cool. This is something we didn't see coming, and I will say that that book starts out with a bang. Book 6 is and same thing with Ratchet's Run. Ratchet's Run, there's not a lot of preamble buildup. It's you are in the action.
Awesome.
Honestly, I have so enjoyed. It's so funny to be a part of a creative process, and yet when the author turns over stuff, I'm seeing it like a little kid for the first time every time. And I've never seen an author set a new high bar with every single book like Blaine is doing now. It has been so much fun to be a part of the partnership working with Blaine, and what he's doing is just phenomenal. So mad props there. When he sent me book 6 to proof, and I'm not joking, I think I was maybe 300 words tops into it before I'm like, oh my God, I cannot set this down. This is like so freaking amazing. Like he did it again. Like it's just one of those ones like, it's really, once again, the storytelling, the tale that he's crafting. It just grabs you. It grabs you right from the beginning, and sit down, strap in, because you're in for a ride. So I'm absolutely loving book 6. And part of that is because I know where book 6 is going and what it's building toward. But also part of that is I know full well, coming off of books, 3, 4, and 5, I know exactly where the fan base's mind is going to be. They walk into book 6, and the first thing that happens is they get an anvil to the face. And that is an awesome thing for a storyteller to deliver. When you're reading a novel and you get tingles down your spine, let's be honest, that's lightning in a bottle. That rarely really happens. And Blaine just keeps pulling it off. So
We'll get to see the Space Force starting in 6.
yes. And those of you who thought it was a joke are going to change your mind.
Yeah.
And those of us who know the Space Force, I know you guys are watching. I still call you a joke. Aim high, baby.
Hey,
you're going to love
You
it.
belong to us.
you're going to develop a whole new appreciation for that. And it's what's really fun too is I've been reaching out to the fan. If you guys don't know, we have a great fan book, Facebook fan page, and I've been including the fans in the book. So it's kind of fun from that perspective because these are people I know. And Brian Wade's characters.
Yeah.
Brian, you may have a part to play in what's coming. I'm not gonna. Just start wearing your red shirt because
Please tell me he's sacrificed to a bug.
3. Yeah,
I want the entire details of the tentacles wrapping around him.
Look, all I've been told so far is that it's spectacular.
He's going to be the ensign that sees the energy matrix beam and just like, oh, what's that? And walks into it. That's going to be fine.
Oh, he's Jar Jar.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Oh, no, he doesn't get a speaking part. No.
All I can say is Brian's going to owe me a beer when this is over because it's pretty massive. But, I just looked at, I just literally go to that list all the time. That's up in Facebook because I'm like, well, the fans, you can be a part of this. We're not going to charge you for that. You can be a part of the universe. Now, I don't guarantee that you will live, but
do I get royalties though?
No,
you don't get to be a hero. we need fodder characters to die left and right.
Can I be on Jay Drake's team?
Well, technically, if I remember Brian's character well, which I do, he's a bit of a douchebag through a lot of it.
So autobiography.
It's kind of fun because he has his own little. Everybody has redemption, and Tides of Redemption. There's a lot of redemption, and Brian's character will get redeemed, and so will some of the other
eventually.
Characters.
Yeah.
But hey, and I wrote the whole book really so I could write the last 2 paragraphs of it. So because I wanted these 3 characters in the room together and to have that dialogue. It was crucial that happened. So, and I'll never forget when I told Brent what it was because he was like, "Oh my God, that's so cool!" And it is. It's going to be fun because it's a big piece of what will follow too. So,
And in case anyone is curious, that's a diehard BattleTech fan. Yeah, that's exactly the way stories are written in BattleTech 2, is you come up with the last 3 lines that you want one character to say, like, all right, let's just write a whole series of novels that'll build up to so that we eventually get to say that. That's the way how you make the sausage. That's
putting these characters together is fun. And
yeah.
Felta, for me, it was great to go back to Felta's character after all this time and go, okay, so she's going to be a central character in this. And so how damaged did I leave her? And where do I want her to go? Because her story's not over yet, and I know where she's going on the big arc, but
she turned into a cybernetic superhero?
No.
Good.
No.
Everyone has to die cool, dude.
Kind of, I don't know. She's kind of a superhero the way Ripley in Aliens was. Okay. It's not superhero. It's just you're doing that again. Wow.
Yeah. Did anybody like at the beginning of Aliens where that guy calls her and she's like, "You want me to go again? Are you insane?" Like, no. Yeah. What makes you think that's a good idea? What makes you think I'd be dumb enough to sign up for that? And yet she goes. You're like.
So, all right. So then let's switch over to, okay. Fun fact. I'm on vacation. Max is on vacation. So technically we can stay as long as we need to, but
I'm still awake.
So I'm just saying, but we have been going for an hour and a half already. Normally we go for about 2, just letting but I also usually end because I have 2? To go to work.
That just gets me started.
Yeah. I don't think Blaine wants to stay up an extra 4 hours off camera.
Okay, 4 hours would be rough.
Anyways, so but I do want to get into the game because I know you both have told me that from the beginning that's what you had planned. You wanted to get it into a game format. So we're going to do a little bit of a transition question because as I've been re-listening to the first trilogy, and then I got my Rhino miniature, and we just got a preview of the Honey Badger. I really like the BattleTech TROs. Okay. Now, obviously, something like that should come out for the game. But What are the chances of say a little mini preview, TRO kind of a book? Maybe it doesn't have game stats, but just kind of like a recognition guide for the fish and the
Blaine, did you pay him for this?
No, I did not.
That is the most amazingly natural lead-in I've ever seen.
You're saying that there's one ready and we'll have it next week.
No, but it's in the works. We're absolutely working on that.
But not on the Osher rigs. Here's the problem with the Oshers. You guys remember the old, line art from Tech Readouts and stuff. Okay.
Goose was the best.
They are awesome. The problem is when you turn around and say, okay, now I'm going to 3D model those things to make miniatures and stuff. Gee, that actually doesn't work at all. And some of them can't walk. Some of them shouldn't be able to stand. Some of them, if you did a true 3D model of some of those older mechs and the Tech Readouts and stuff, it's just the word retarded comes to mind. It's just bad. For us to do this, what we do is Brent works on the design of these things with an artist, and then they're 3D modeled so that they can be doing. So when you see the Honey Badger, there's actually a 3D model being built of the Honey Badger so that the comic artist can just use it to position things and have the right ranges of movement and everything else. And 2, it allows us then to branch into the miniatures. And that takes time, money, etc. And I keep adding rigs to this all the freaking time. So
I don't think I've seen a rig show up twice.
Oh, they do. They do.
They do.
They do. But in the next in book 6, the Python shows up, plus all the British. they don't call them Ashers, they're called sovereigns, and their sovereigns are all very in there and different. So, I make things very rough on the art department. and I just wrote the whole section where I'm introducing the Yellow Jacket. So, in the new book. So, there's just newer rigs, there's older rigs that have been refit and things along those lines. And I know everybody's chomping at the bits at that, but to me, that's going to take longer than doing something where we can put out a good threat assessment of the aliens.
It's interesting because a lot of folks in gaming, we're used to really quick emotional payoffs. In fact, one of the biggest pieces of criticism that we received off the novels today is like, oh, they didn't wrap up everything with a bow at the end of it. Like, no, we're not. We don't solve world peace in one book. No, that's not the way this works. So when it comes to the nuance behind what we're building, we realized we were going to build something epic. And we also realized we didn't have an infinite pocketbook to do it. So we are slowly, systematically building it piece by piece by piece. And, anyone in showbiz will tell you, you always want to leave the audience wanting more. So we're defaulting with that, not intentionally, but just knowing that we have to, because when everything we're doing, we're not crapping a whole bunch of stuff out. We're systematically working up quality product bit by bit by bit by bit and adding to a library.
And as much as you say you want a good tech readout, and it doesn't have to have the game stats. If I turn around then and sell one with the game stats, the first argument that people will be making online is, well, they ripped us off. They put one out without the game stats in it. And now I got to go buy the thing all over again. The internet loves candy ass whiners, and they will be all over that. So we got to do a tightrope act a little bit on that to make sure that we don't do something stupid, and piss off the fan base in the process. So,
well, one of the things that I've noticed is no matter how many times people say, I want it now, where is it? I want it now, I want it now, I want it now. They would rather wait for something quality than get it rushed and, well, I got it, but it was crap, especially if somebody who's going to be a fan for the long term. I mean, to be fair, the only thing I collect from BattleTech anymore are the TROs. There's just something special about those things. I don't even play with the new tech, but I still collect the TROs. Because
they're magic. There's something to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But, okay, well, Brian left, and I've got his talking points, but they're really vague. And up there, thank God.
He warned us.
And so that's everything we're going to talk about regarding the game.
Good night.
Oh, we revealed everything, Brian. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We've all the spoilers.
I feel
are
bad
out.
you weren't online.
Too bad you
You're going to
didn't.
have to watch a replay.
Well, that's it for tonight, guy.
Thank you for those dates. That was awesome. I'll be sure to let people on my website know.
I was so glad that you were here, because you could be in the early playtest group. We only had one kit to give away, and Max got it.
Max has got it. Yeah. God, this is just fun. We could go with this for hours.
I know.
For those of you that don't know, viewing from home, Brian actually warned us in advance that he was having some technical difficulties, and he may accidentally bump out and jump back in. So we weren't really surprised when it happened. If anything, I was surprised it took as long as it did. But still, it's fun to razz him about it because that's just good time. We're gamers. That's what we do.
Exactly. I'm not lying. I probably went a little sheet white when that happened. I was like,
the look on your face was entertaining. Yeah, I won't lie.
Wouldn't surprise. That'll be clippable by somebody.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Well, and again, I said it before. That's why I brought Max on. I knew he could handle in a pinch. And,
Oh, he was pinching.
I was like, help me.
Whoa.
He was pinching a loaf there for a second.
You could tell that from there? Dang it.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, okay. So we're not going to get a TRO this year. Fine, I
not
guess.
on Osher rigs is what I said.
Not on Osher rigs.
Okay.
On bugs?
Maybe.
We don't have bugs.
Well, bugs, they're bugs to me. The bugs,
calls
crabs,
everything bugs.
there's people,
There's
aliens,
sea bugs.
there's sea
He's
bugs.
Capellan. He doesn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm using the Russian word for bug. or fished.
It's a project that it's a mental diversion for me between chapters. So to tell you the truth, there's several thousand, 6,000 words written already.
Okay.
But it's in a unique format, and we're doing it in a special way. And I'm not going to tell you when it's going to come out because it's not on the agenda right now.
Okay. Are you going to tell us what the special format is, or we're still locking things in and so not ready to share?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no, we know what it is. We're just not telling you.
What it is. We're not telling you.
Well, fine. I see how it is.
Because
we
know
were
it's going to
friends
keep
here.
you up until the next time we have a live stream like this.
Yeah, it's not going to have game statistics in it. It's written from a very different perspective. And I know that's not going to settle well with a lot of the fans because they're going to go, well, now I got to buy it again when they put the game stats in. And they may be right. But it's more of a guide to help people when they're reading the books to go, that's what I'm looking at.
I did that all the time with the old BattleTech books. Oh, it said there's a locust in here. Hold on. Oh, that's what the locust look like. Okay.
Right.
Yep. And actually, there's more to it too. Blaine had this brilliant idea. Like, for those of you that don't know, in World War I and World War II, the U.S. military was releasing little pamphlets that they would keep with them to show them what they may face.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going back to the original source material of, like, really what would the military produce to notify their people of, oh, by the way, there's a new crazy thing you're going to have to face. Here's a go. So that's the direction we're going with it. We want it to feel authentic for those people that really are legitimately in the military and know what this stuff comes out in the real world. That's our paradigm with it.
Well, and also as far as Blaine's comment about, oh, now I have to buy it again to get the game stats. Like, I'd come in and just say, guys, don't forget, writing is still a business. Okay. At the end of the day, yes, Blaine's got some retirement. I'm assuming the sales of the books are doing well, but if you want,
he's actually speaking to you from his floating mega complex above the earth.
Well, but my point was just going to be that, sometimes companies are going to put things out that, okay, it's a little $10 pamphlet or whatever the cost ends up being that, yes, it will be expanded upon in the future, but at least in the meantime, this could be funding for, 10 more pieces of art or, paying somebody to write, the background fiction that came along with it that might get used in something later. So, I think there's still valid and useful reasons, even if some of that material is going to get reused at some point. So
I don't disagree, but I also know gamers whine and bitch about everything. And, I've been a gamer most of my life, and the first thing they'll do is go, well, there's no game stats in here, and they're just tricking us now into buying it. These will be the same people who are going, how come they're not releasing something so that I can flip through it? And it's the joys of the internet. I totally 100% get it. We're going to test the waters a little bit and see what the appetite is. And, however people react is how people are going to react. But we recognize, I think, especially in the case of the aliens, it's something you really got to see.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I and I agree. Like the internet is going to whine and complain. They always do. But
you've seen my channel.
Well, and for what is that's actually a big part of the above the table, like the part of being a part of the fan base is you whine and complain, you compare notes, you bitch, you oh man, I wish I could know what would happen next. Why aren't they writing stuff faster? Why doesn't the X-wing have 3 extra wings? Like all that stuff, that's all part of the experience of being a part of it, and that's valid. Like, yeah, people bitch and complain, but really it's coming from a place of they want more, they want it now. I love the biggest criticism that we've gotten on the books to date has actually been. I want the next one. Why isn't the next one out yet? We're like, okay, literally, we put out 5 books in 6 months. I don't know that anybody's ever put out books faster, so I'll take it. Yeah, if that's your biggest criticism, we're doing it right.
I like this.
Yeah, I mean it's not wrong. So
I don't
right.
work for ones.
I don't work for single.
I appreciate the thought, but not happening.
Excuse
They're
me.
all hundreds. They're all hundreds, Blaine.
All right, so okay, real quick, we have to laugh at Max when he gets back because that's the logo for his partner, Heathen Dog. So he didn't even
Doesn't have a logo of his own, does he?
He usually does, but he just screwed up this time, so we get to laugh at him. I'm not the only one making mistakes. So then we'll catch Max up with this one. So how is development of? I'm assuming you're starting with a role-playing game.
No,
Actually, no. We are starting. One of the big things with developing the game, aside of this IP, is we knew we wanted a tactical miniatures game. We also knew we wanted a role-play game. And we didn't want there to be a barrier for entry between the two. So in writing the core game mechanics, they are the same for the tabletop game as they are for the role-play game. So players who play a role-play game and want to dabble in the tactical game won't actually have to learn a new system.
Just
All
took
the
my question
mechanics
from
will
me.
mirror. You're welcome.
yeah,
Yeah. So we literally have been building both the tactical game, the RPG game side by side, and organically we realized there's really a system in the middle, which is like the tactical game for the core of it is a single squad. This is a single squad out there doing battle. This is one unique thing. And then you realize between that and the RPG, there is, well, what if we want a battlefield? Multiple squads all coordinating things together. So right now we are building the game to have 3 completely independent and totally functional facets of the game. The squad-based game, the battle space game, and the RPG game. All mimicking the same mechanics.
Excellent.
So there's no barrier for entry. We don't care what flavor of the universe you're playing, so long as you're enjoying Land and Sea. That's the takeaway. That's why there's been a little extra time.
The bottom line is you'll be able to easily, quickly create a character, and if you want, put them on the tabletop. And if they die, you have to go create a brand new character and go on. But it's going to be a kind of a flow of that. And
is it a unique system, or is it something that somebody will recognize?
A completely unique system.
Okay,
we're doing our own.
It'll feel off for anybody that's a diehard gamer. You'll feel elements from various other games. They're like, oh yeah, that feels right. That feels right. That feels right. One of the weird things is that in playtest, going back and forth, like the game designer side of my head was like, okay, we need simple, easy numbers that batch into like batches of 5s and 10s. Like we need dice that are a simple thing. But the truth is, if you think about actual battlefield experiences, they aren't clean. They don't happen easy. They don't round, and everything's not resolved at the end of a turn. Like that nuance of it is that we wanted it to feel authentic for people that actually have a sense that they're not getting just a cookie coded gameplay experience. We didn't want it to feel like any of the other games out there that will remain nameless. We wanted to feel authentically its own.
And we didn't want you to have to try to reverse fit numbers. You look at the old Battletech MechWarrior role-playing game, you had to kind of reverse the piloting and gunnery roll numbers to make the system work. And the role-playing game just didn't mesh well with the tabletop. And that was one of our early criteria was it's got to be relatively seamless. Because there's people who are only going to play the role-playing game. There's people that are only going to play the tabletop game. There's people that are going to play the battle space level game.
Which is totally fine, by all means. But if they want to dabble in the others, we don't want the rules themselves to get in the way.
But for each gamer, their way is the only right way.
Right.
Always. We're gamers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So how far along is development of the game?
We are about ready to release. I would say within the next 45 days, we will have the Alpha Strike, or not Alpha Strike, the Alpha Build playtests out to what we are anticipating to be 10 playtest groups. We have a whole lot of people signing up to do playtesting, but it can't just be a singular person. We need people that actually have a group of people that can really put these things through their paces and give us qualitative, valuable feedback on what worked and what didn't. And we're currently putting those kits together as we speak.
Yeah, Kevin's printing off 3D miniatures and stuff for that. So
you should have seen him in this last week in Tuesday's meeting. He's holding armloads of miniatures. He's like, "So how many of these did you need me to print?" Like, okay, so way less of those and way more of these. Yeah, it was pretty entertaining.
that was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. The look on his face, he's like, "You don't need 5 foxes per squad? No,
Yeah.
you don't need 5 foxes per squad."
Couldn't we have a scenario where there's 5 foxes being attacked? No, you can't really.
I am perfectly willing to accept any delivery of extra 3D printed figures that might show up at my place.
We'll see.
Good to know. Good to know.
So, I might even be willing to paint them live on stream at some point.
Well, you never know.
You never know. We've been known to surprise people.
All right. So, and so then with the playtest going out in the next 45 days, about how long do you expect that alpha to take?
Alphas typically take 2 to 4 weeks to play and to graft usable notes. And then they're turned in. And then it'll be typically anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks to process those notes, adjust the mechanics, and then behind the scenes, like we'll play test the adjustments to those mechanics, make sure the math works, all that nuance of dialing things in to get them ready for beta.
Okay.
One of the difficult things with this is that Blaine keeps inventing new aliens, which is both a wonderful good thing and but I'm like, okay, we balanced it this, and then you added a new one, and then we balanced it, and then we added a new one, and then of course, let's be honest, I'm going to throw myself on the sword. I created one of the worst ones that threw all the math off because I'm like, okay, we need a pawn, we need something that you can pop, and Blaine's like, well, if we're going to do that, we have to do it really right. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, and then he wrote it. I'm like, oh god, how are we going to do that? So yeah, all that stuff comes into play. It's all in the works.
Okay. A slight little diversion, but I am going to highlight it because this is actually my very first super chat.
All right.
Yeah,
thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, thank you very much, Crusader Saracen. He asked,
"Can I answer that?"
Go ahead.
Let me read it. Mr. Evans, Mr. Pardoe, how do you feel about selling video game rights to prospective developers?
Selling? I don't think we would. You got to remember one thing. We're creative control in terms of story and stuff will reside with us.
Oh, thank God.
Because it's got to be, it has got to be authentic to the rest of the universe. I personally won't stand to have somebody go off and create, something for the iPad that, just as a silly ass little app for this, it's got to really represent the universe.
Like the Xbox MechWarrior game?
No, I was thinking the Xbox Shadowrun game. That's what I was looking at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
So,
went there.
I mean, that's my take on it. We've been approached like 2 or 3 times by game producers that have said, "Oh, we really want to be on the ground floor with this," but they all fizzle out.
Which means there's an opportunity, and yes, we are totally open to it, so long as you can show us that you're serious and you're going to treat the IP right. So yeah, we are absolutely still looking for a electronic game development studio to partner with, like we have for the novels and for the graphic novel. Yeah, absolutely. But we're not going to dive on the first one that throws money at us. We're looking for the right one. We want a partner we can work with long term that delivers a quality product over and over and over.
So, and really quick, I looking at Blaine's reaction to the question and then your answer to the question, I am going to I think, clarify a little bit for Crusader Saracen, because he did say selling the video game rights. Nobody wants a FOSSA Interactive. So I believe he would be willing to license the rights.
That was the word that I reacted to, was selling the rights.
Yeah,
It's
seller.
Like, that's not going to happen.
We will never sell it. We will absolutely license it. And honestly, it was really entertaining when Wargate came to us, and they said, "Would you guys be serious?" And we looked at a variety of different publishers and stuff, and ultimately, like, okay, yeah, we are serious. Good luck. Go ahead. And they're like, "We'll send you our lawyer's draft of the contract." And I took it and I shredded it. And for those people that don't know, I was a part of rewriting the BattleTech and Shadowrun contracts for Tops, for those things, because there are things to do right and there's things to do wrong. So lawyers typically look at a contract and they're like, what can we possibly bleed out of this in every way, shape, or form? And unfortunately, that usually strangleholds the creative side of things, and costs the IP in the long run. So I shredded that contract from Wargate. I rewrote their contract. I sent it back to them and said, here's the contract we want to see from you. And they looked at it, and I'm not joking. Their reaction was instantly like, that's really nice. Are you serious that this is, that's exactly what we want. We want you making so much off of our IP that you never want to stop working with us. We want us both to be incredibly successful from this. And they're like, wow, we've literally never had somebody do a contract with us that way. And there's a reason why the contract was done almost instantly. And next thing you know, there's 5 books on store shelves. So that's how we work. Okay.
All right. So another question regarding the game, Halcyon asks, if such high-tech weapons and the complexities and the complexities, I'm going to add in a couple words, contained with those weapons, are you going for a crunchy system, or are you going in for more rules light type system?
Ooh, that's a good question. Blaine, you want to take that one?
Here's the deal. One of the design criteria that I put in the initial design of this game was that we would not duplicate the amount of record tracking that you had to do in BattleTech ever. The reason being, BattleTech, you can play for 8 hours fighting a 2-minute battle, and it's crazy, and it's just too much. We want a level of simplicity, but we also want a level of realism to the game. So when you shoot at a rig, you may very well hit a major component. You don't have to eat all the armor up on a limb before you start damaging stuff. Stuff can be damaged right off the bat because that's realistic. And same thing with a tank. It's not like you're going to, I have to pump 5 rounds into the side of this Abrams tank before I actually hit something. No, you probably will hit something on first or second round even. So it's very realistic in that level, but the level of track, we're not going to have you sitting there going, all right, I just squeezed the trigger for 2 impulses and that's 6 bullets. And, you're sitting there jotting that stuff down. I think that kills the playability of the game. To me, I want a game that people just can sit down and play it in a relatively quick time frame. And so far the play tests have shown that.
Okay. Real quick, I am also going to say,
is that accurate, Brent? I mean,
that was absolutely accurate, and you're right. The question of crunch versus fluff and the nuance there. Crunch is great when it reinforces the experience, but trying to realistically, accurately track all the things that would happen in combat is incredibly tedious, and most people don't really want the real world experience of it. They want a feeling of having that while actually having a good play test or a good playing experience. So yeah, Blaine's right. Our game will play significantly faster. Now, with that said, there will be crunch with the variety of weapon systems and types, especially from the aliens, because so many of them are working off of tech types that are so weird. They're so not like most people in a combat military game aren't used to seismic level weapons. That in and of itself, like you don't even need to worry about armor at that point. You're going right through that. You have the sonics that go right through. They ignore armor. They go right to soft surfaces and flesh. So there's all kinds of nuance, and our goal will be to dial that down in mechanics terms to make it playable and feel authentic, without getting so crunch heavy that it gets in the way.
All right.
Feel right?
And then a $2 super chat from David Rossi. Map sheets or terrain? Thank you, by the way, David.
Both. We will support both.
Okay. And then also another $2 super chat from Terry Nils. Thank you, by the way. Maybe I should leave that up on the screen. Will there be infantry miniatures?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we were having this discussion this week.
Man, were we? Yeah. So in our minds, a unit like the core unit is a combined arms unit. That'll be an infantry squad with some soldiers, one Asher, and one ground robotic drone in some way, shape, or form. That's your basic core level one. And the reason for that is like anybody that's played BattleTech knows that when you're first starting to play one-on-one, BattleTech one-on-one is not the best experience. Everyone, including Randall Bills, has always said one-on-one BattleTech is not the best experience. That's a good way to learn the basics of the game, but you'll graduate out of that almost instantly. Because all it takes is one magic BB, 1-1
Gauss
roll,
rifle to the
and
face.
yeah, or I shoot your face, or I shoot your engine, and now you're done. And there's not a whole lot of reaction that can be handled out of that. So having a squad, a core unified combined arms squad, is our basic level within the Land and Sea game.
Okay. Kind of, I think, because Crusader Saracen dropped another $2. Again, thank you. But I think he's also referring to the video games. Are you looking more for like turn-based tactics, or are you pretty much open to whatever developer is going to say, hey, I got this cool idea?
Crescent Hawks or Mech Warrior?
Oh man, that hurts. That hurts. The short answer to that, ultimately, the real answers will be happen once we release the beta and everybody has a chance to take a good hard look at it and kick the tires. They'll get the answers, but turn-based to a degree that is not the same as like the other role-play games or BattleTech games that you're used to. Tabletop games.
We use a system called impulses, and within a turn, so if you think about it, let's say you want to aim your rifle. If you take a certain number of impulses, it gives you certain pluses to your shot, but that means you're sitting there aiming your rifle, and in the meantime, the other guys can be actually executing on their impulses. So it's a very fluid game from that perspective.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. Technical difficulties.
That's all right.
Real quick. Okay. Crafty Matt, who is very prolific amongst the channels that Max and I kind of frequent. He threw up a few questions earlier, but he's crashing and wants to go to bed. So I do want to get those answered, even though it's going to kind of interrupt our flow here a little bit. First one, he says, hello, Mr. Evans and Mr. Pardoe. It's awesome that you guys are here in my first month of BattleTech. Where should I start in the fiction?
Sword and Dagger.
Oh, that's mean.
Far
Don't do
Country.
that. Oh,
Far
Decision of Thunder Rift.
Star-Lord is the starting point for everybody. I'm not answering this question because I don't do things that promote BattleTech.
I will answer this question. Decision at Thunder Rift. Start there. You'll love it.
Okay.
All right, you got 4 more minutes.
Next question. Who came up with the idea that the Northwind Highlanders, which I am drawn to, being a third generation removed from my Irish-Scottish roots, blast bagpipes while riding into combat?
That was originally fielded by Mike Stackpole in the Warrior Trilogy when the Highlanders retook Northwind. He actually has them playing the war pipes going in. So that was where it was introduced for the first time, actually, in the fictional realm.
Okay.
Good answer.
Then looping back to the normal topic. Six World, actually, I guess I should bring this up. I'd started earlier. He says, most important question, Land and Sea Miniatures game when? I think we already kind of covered that.
Yeah, I think we have.
Yeah.
Do you think it
We're
might,
keeping it
When it's done.
Yeah.
when it's ready for you.
I was gonna say, do you think we might see it, or at least like say a beta release, like an open beta, sometime this year, or do you think it's gonna not be until next year?
I think that is plausible.
I think it's possible, but I want to be cautious about the word open beta.
Yeah.
Because that implies we're opening it up for everybody on the world to do it. And
Fair.
I think we're going to be very selective about where we go for betas. The people that are going to do the playtest for us, it's not going to be this, hey, let's grab 300 people and give them copies of the game, because it gets out of control quick. And if you look like at the Marvel role-playing game that just came out that was done, they did a pre-release beta, whatever you want to call it, and it garnered a lot of nasty comments. And it almost kind of poisoned the well a little bit early on. And I want to avoid going through stuff like that, because there are some bad players out there too that are looking for excuses to take shots at this.
Go back to the old days where we used to have to mail in. We want to be a playtester. You get a package with a big NDA on it. And
oh yeah.
What?
Where are you going, Brent?
Yeah, I'm like, what's happening with Brent?
I'm going. You got 90 seconds.
Oh. Okay. Let's see. For the game, do you think you're going to be doing?
He's blacked out.
Oh, I bet his battery died, and he was trying to get to a charger.
I admit nothing.
So with the game, are like once you think you've got it in a ready state, are you going to put it up on Kickstarter?
That's always been the plan.
Okay.
That may change. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Right.
I would like to do it on a Kickstarter, but I want to be very careful about stretch goals. I'm a little shy with Kickstarters that promise the whole world and never deliver. Not that I'm pointing my fingers at BattleTech, but there's still some open stuff from the first Kickstarter. So yeah,
well, and that's not even a BattleTech problem. That's just a Kickstarter in general.
That's a Kickstarter problem, but it's something I'm very sensitive to.
Sure.
I'm with Brian. That's not a BattleTech thing. That's everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't pass up a shot to take a chance to take a shot over at Catalyst Game Lab. So
I'm gonna let you two handle that. So
all right.
Let's see. So Turbo Turtle had asked earlier, which actually somebody did answer, but I'm still gonna bring it up to you to let you guys kind of chime in on this. What is the status with drones in Land and Sea?
Oh, we have tons of them. They're cool.
We love drones.
We love our GRDs, and there are aerial drones too. And you'll see some of that in the fiction too.
They do get shot down a lot.
Well, yeah, but the problem you run into is the Air Force ran out of munitions like after 3 weeks of the war. So you've got drones that are great for mapping battle space and doing surveillance, but if you don't have bombs to drop and rockets to fire, it's kind of a slow process, which is very realistic. And that's part of the challenge of the universe is we've been hit with a war and invaded on both coasts. And you're going to run out of munitions really fast. And we're seeing hints of that already with Ukraine right now in the real world. So imagine if we actually got invaded.
Yeah. No, and it's like, as you mentioned that, I actually just started thinking, it's like, there's not necessarily going to be a lot of use for the Air Force until that manufacturing could get ramped back up.
Yeah.
Well,
there's a great story in Flotsam of War where they called for an airstrike and it totally freaked them out because it actually happened. And of course it lands on them too, which is part of the fun. But it's like, but it's a classic like, oh my God, the one time we actually called for it, we're getting it.
Is the B-52 still flying?
Oh, well, you know what? I believe that.
I love the B-52.
Yeah.
B-52.
Yeah, the
That's a
key with
sexy
drones
lady.
is that, for those diehard fans of BattleTech always know, like there's a nuance with warships, and the biggest problems from a game designer standpoint with warships is that they made all the battles on of the heroes and the characters and the mechs irrelevant, because if it doesn't matter who wins or loses, just somebody from orbit can drop a bomb on them and wipe them all out, then that ruins your storytelling. That totally kills your game. So when it comes to drones for land and sea, there are lots of drones, but drones will always be in a support role for land and sea. They will not take away the hero's value or the player's value in the storytelling and the stuff that they're fighting and trying to achieve.
Yeah, which I think does tie well into this next super chat from Terry Nils for $5. Thank you very much. Are there still human pilots? Not that I'd feel bad if there wasn't. My job would still be secure.
Absolutely.
There's going to be
Absolutely.
human pilots. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, because you called, I think it was the Fly Boys and the Joy Boys.
Joy Boys.
Right.
Yeah.
Joy Boys are the drone guys, and then there's the Fly Boys who actually climb in the cockpit and do their thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I'm not gonna do away with human pilots, and anybody who thinks that's going to happen is going to be sadly mistaken. There is a backstory about AI about that kind of fits in with some of the stuff that happened before this war that will kind of negate some of those things.
Asimov was wrong?
AI is not going to be the dominant force. It has to be used in very limited ways, and there's a story behind that, and I'm not going to ruin it at this point, but it's...
Does it have to do with White Monday?
No, it has everything to do with Taiwan.
Okay.
So
I love how he just drops that in there.
What happens in Taiwan, there's some AI things that happen that are it was consequential. You should always check the backgrounds of the people you have writing your code.
Right?
Look at you, never having a super chat before, and you're gonna be rich. You're gonna retire after tonight.
Wow, let's not get that out of control. But it's kind of cool. Another question from Crusader Saracen for $5. How do you feel about sci-fi that goes out of its way to justify things like melee combat or human-piloted vehicles in their universe? I think that piggybacks off of what we were talking about very well.
Ultimately, it's fine so long as it reinforces the nuance of the authenticity of the universe, regardless of whatever that universe is. If they're trying to force it and it feels arbitrary, then that always comes across disingenuous. But if it's authentic for the universe and handled right, then great.
Yeah. I always liked it when Klingons went at it with batlets. I had no problem with
it. That was awesome.
Well, and I think his I actually have to disagree with him as far as Dune is concerned. They emphasize melee specifically because of the shields. It doesn't do any good to shoot at something, if it's going to have no effect. But if you can get that bladed weapon in there, well, there's a reason for that to still exist and for people to train in that. So, or
the fact also that a Stargate trope too, where it's like you couldn't shoot the Goa'uld, but you could throw a knife at one.
I don't think so, because the SG teams kind of went in heavily armed.
I just like the helmets.
Check it
out. Yes, those helmets that are absolutely tactically efficient.
I think that's why I liked them. They were so ridiculous. They were cool.
That's fair. Let's see. And I know I've asked this to Blaine, but man, like everybody's chiming in all of a sudden.
They finally realized they can pay you to get their voices heard. It's awesome.
Which Yes, thank you, folks. Thank you, Mark Birdsell, for $5. I would assume
His first super chat ever, by the way.
That's a $5 question too. That's a good question.
Oh, God. Okay, I see what that's. He says, I am assuming we will be modeling several current armored vehicles for use in battle in addition to infantry and Ashers.
I would hope so.
Well,
you got the Buford, you got the Schwarzkopf, you got the Jolts. Yeah.
I would say, but aren't those technically in-universe vehicles, or am I missing something that they're actual vehicles already?
No, those are in.
There can be both.
Okay.
Yeah.
If the Army would pay attention to what we're doing, they might want to actually kind of consider some of the designs.
Yeah, we were kind of hoping the military would be like, man, that Asher looks awesome. We should totally do that.
Yeah. Yes, we will license those rights to you.
And then who becomes Jay Drake?
Brent.
Bezos.
Crusader Saracen for another $5 says, if it ever will load, is it okay for melee or related question, is it okay for melee combat or human pilots to simply be a given in a sci-fi universe?
I wouldn't just assume it. It's gotta naturally be organic to that universe. There has to be reasons for those things.
Yeah. I mean, like even with the Asher rigs, I believe there are like specific like melee weapons given to. Actually, no, they specifically talk about it for the underwater ones, about how like the torque and everything was throwing them off balance, and so they ended up inventing, I believe, essentially a vibroblade. Yeah,
well, kind of.
So
we have chainsaws.
Yeah,
lots of chainsaws.
So I think that's totally relevant. Mark Birdsell wants an Asher with a sword.
Actually, a Gen 3 makes sense. An earlier gen kind of doesn't. The big exception to that may well be hold on a sec.
The what?
The drone militaries that we had a sneak peek of in Japan, where they had a variety of types that were called samurai, and that actually would make sense to have that for them to come up with a way to that possible.
All right, real quick, special shout out, Stephen Cross. Good morning, sir. Happy to see you. He's a regular in my streams, and I like Steve. Anyways, okay. So then, last thing, actually, because we're at 2 hours and 10 minutes now. Last thing that I do want to bring up that sort of got touched on, and I know Blaine's brought it up before. So far, Blaine's been doing all of the writing. Okay. Are there opportunities for other people to do some writing here?
Very much so. Anybody who's interested, reach out to me. I'm looking for somebody who's got some publishing credits already under their belt. Be it short story, be it novel. I want to see some of your work. Absolutely, I want other writers. I'd like writers in other countries if we can work it out so that the language barrier doesn't get screwy. It's got to be done correctly, and it's got to be something that's translatable and things along those lines. But absolutely, I'm always looking for good authors. There's a couple that I've been trying to court, and it's a matter of finding a gap on their schedules. And I'm cranking out so many books. They're like, now I've got to read 6 books to get caught up. And, I'm like, well, you can start with the first 3. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's one of the challenges you get when you have a lot of fiction out in your universes. It's going to be more of a challenge later down the road for authors to jump in. I am definitely looking for some good writers, 100%.
And
Brent's always looking for good 3D modelers. He's also looking for what,
Illustrators, good illustrators.
Yeah.
Be they designers, be they renderers. If you've got a
Okay.
specialty, that's fine. I've always said that when it comes to especially the visual imagery that brings any gaming property to life, tapping fans of that property is always better. In fact, sometimes it's easier to teach somebody how to draw from scratch than it is to teach them the nuance of all the subtleties in a universe if they don't know it. Kind of like saying, "Oh yeah, I want you to, illustrate for Star Wars if you don't even know what an X-wing is." Well, that doesn't help. But our fans, if any of our fans have art cred, art background, and they want to send me something, I will absolutely give them priority and put them at the top of the list to review and potentially develop.
Okay. As far as the writing is concerned, what would you like, Brent? Would you just like a, hey, here's my A, here's my stuff for you to check out, and B, here's a 2-sentence pitch of a story I'd like to write.
Well, for writing, they have to wow Blaine.
Yeah, you dazzle me. Tell me what your story idea is. Bear in mind, you look at Ratchet's Run, it's the pitch was so simple because it's like, I'm going to do Kelly's Heroes, but I'm going to do it, with Oshers and with aliens. So yeah, the opportunities are out there.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Any particular kind of story that you would like to see?
I would say try to avoid the characters we've already created. I think for a new writer, create your own little cast and create your own story. Don't think of this as you're going to be writing the next universe shaping book. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be reaching out to Mike Stackpole for this.
No, Mike is busy for the foreseeable future. I know what his schedule looks like, and no, he's not available.
Yeah. He's only 2 years behind on the Dragoons, origin story. So, not that I would take a shot at Catalyst, because we all know I wouldn't do that. But, so
I've been trying to avoid it. I had to throw that one.
I know. I don't show a lot of restraint there. But no, I think it's, I'm looking for good stories, but think of this as, as Brent said, we've talked about a lot of different cities, all the coastal cities. If you want to write about what's going on in Baltimore, well, hey, we haven't said much about Baltimore. So go ahead, tackle it, come up with something, make it interesting.
Somebody can
we
do
said
something
San Francisco,
from my hometown.
Yeah.
Pardon?
What's your hometown?
Oh, up there in Minnesota.
There you go.
It's always being attacked by bugs in every game I play. The rifts, and I don't know what else. Somebody's always like, let's have some weird alien come in and go ransack Minnesota. That's why I live in Alabama now.
All right.
Actually,
Wow.
Max reminded me of a question that this is just a general world knowledge question. Are the fish only sea creatures? Or will we see stories of them, like, say, going up into the Great Lakes or other bodies of water, not necessarily?
You don't know yet.
Somebody's going to find the Edmund Fitzgerald for us.
We're so not going to tell you.
I'm not going to tell you, but I specifically wrote in one of the cycle chapters for the new trilogy something in the Great Lakes. So, yes.
But we don't know.
I'm saying it. I'm just,
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you what's happening up there, but I had a lot of fun with that because it was very personal.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was raised in Michigan, and anytime I can destroy parts of Michigan, I'm into it.
I just lost half of my YouTube channel because like half the people that subscribe to me seem to be from Michigan.
I was
They're all
going to
wearing blue and gold.
Heathen Dog is gone.
Yep, Heathen Dog is gone.
So
find out where he lives. I'll destroy it.
Michigan.
Yeah, Detroit. Just Detroit.
Oh, that's easy.
That's easy.
I don't have to do anything there.
Perry Nils for $2. When will fish fly?
No
They kind
comment.
of started that way. They came from space, so
No comment.
That's true. They did come from space, but they're not,
Well, Brent floated a concept for this that it's going to appear later in the new trilogy.
I did.
Got
Oh
Yeah.
man.
it. Great, Brent. You ruined it.
It's like I was drunk when I said that. I didn't want that in the book.
That's the thing. He babbles sometimes, and I just take notes.
Yeah. It's true.
Awesome. All right. Well, then at this point, okay, I'll bring this one up real quick. Fargo meets the universe. Interesting dialogue for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. So now that we're 2 hours and 15 minutes in, and I'm having an absolutely wonderful time, but I don't want to abuse your time. And Brent is, clearly somewhere, about to go, wrestle a bear or something. Is there anything else we should know about Land and Sea? What's coming? Something that I didn't ask but should have because I'm a disaster at all of this. Final
I would
thoughts.
advise readers to get up to speed with the books, get caught up, because I've heard from a lot of people you're writing them too fast. I can't keep up. And I'm like, okay, well, we're going to give you a chance to get caught up because when book 6 drops, I think you're really going to be shocked. What fans have told us is they want to see more about the aliens and they want to know. A lot of them are like, can you tell us what's going on with some of the main characters? And book 6 is going to deliver on both of those fronts.
Yeah, we obviously cranked out a huge volume of product here. Literally, like the first 6 months of the year, we delivered 5 novels. We are slowing that down significantly so that the second half of the year, we are delivering 1 novel, but that's because we are putting so much focus into getting the game up and ready to launch and deliver alongside season 2. So we are giving you your chance. This is your chance to catch up because we are just getting started. And this snowball is going to continue to build. You have not seen anything yet.
Yeah, late winter and spring, the next trilogy, season 2, will be kicking off with Cyclones of Chaos, and it's just good. I mean, it's a big trilogy again, and you're going to see some of the same old characters. You're going to get a whole bunch of new ones, and you're going to like them, I think. I like a couple of them. A couple of them are douchey, but I'm working on it.
I mean, they might be douchey, but they still make good characters, right?
Oh, they are.
Right.
Absolutely. I got a crooked cop character that's just, it's interesting. It's a weird quirk with him.
I can see the internet reviews now. It's all gonna be social commentary, nothing about the book.
Yeah, well,
that may happen whether we want to or not.
Fair.
Blaine, you are too fast. I have to choose between Land and Sea, Blue Dawn, and some of your older stuff. Well, you're just gonna have to focus.
I can't help it. I can't help people with their reading speed.
Although the audiobooks are coming along nicely, that helps.
Oh, they are.
I was going to say, like I said, I was burning through book 1. I was literally burning through book 2 today at 2x. I'm like, you know what? I've already read it. Just, I'll catch the highlights. It'll get it back in my head so I can ask some questions. All right. Anything else that you want to ask Max? Anything that didn't get covered that you wanted to know about?
No, I just drive down some rabbit holes that we probably don't have time for. I think everything that need to be said was said.
We'll save it for the next one.
Absolutely. Or maybe I can try to get you on my live stream. Forget Brian. Let's come on over and have some real fun.
We're always open.
Possibly go wrong.
We're a lot of fun, actually.
Well, all right. Well, folks, I am going to go ahead and we're going to end it here. Obviously, guys, stay behind and we will say our proper goodbyes offline. But seriously, Max, Brent, Blaine, first off, thanks for being nice to this guy who has severe inferiority complexes. You've always been kind and I've always really appreciated it. So
you're welcome, John. No problem.
But you realize Max's real name is John, right?
No, that just makes my joke better.
Yeah, it does. So, but no, I did want to thank all of you for being here. I really, really do appreciate it. Everybody who sent in super chats, whether it was to me or Max, I hope I highlighted all of them. If I missed any, I do absolutely apologize. But this has been an absolute blast. Don't forget, down below, there is a link to Amazon to pick up Land and Sea Splashdown, whatever format you want it in. They've got it digital, they've got it hard copy, they've got it audiobook. Take your pick. But look for more. It's all going to be exciting. We're all, I'm enjoying it. Eventually, I'll get books 4 and 5 read. I promise, guys. Quit giving
Dude, that's
me a
on
hard
you.
time.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I know it is.
You're not slowing me down, okay? Here's the deal. You're only building up a backlog.
I will have plenty of road trip material for years to come. But, folks, thank you so much for being here. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed it. But other than that, I'm going to hit the end broadcast. It's going to cut us off at some weird spot. And, guys, everybody have a great night. Thanks for being here.
See you later.